Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Self-love through freedom and connection. So feel free to connect to The Brave Never Fall on these social media platforms. If you find anything of value in this following podcast, hit that like button, subscribe and share, and support the brave and bold tribe growing one purposeful soul at a time. How are you feeling? Take a moment to do a self-check-in for yourself. How are you feeling mentally? How are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling spiritually? Are you feeling balanced? Are you still journeying on an intentional, purposeful path? How are you feeling? Balancing yourself is a healthy daily practice that will reliably keep you in harmony with your entire mind, body, heart, and soul. Clear your mind. Take a moment of silence for yourself right now in the moment. You are here now. How are you feeling? Focus on what you see today. Tomorrow will surprise you anyway, and yesterday is just a memory. The unknown, the uncertainty of the unknownness of life is very scary to a lot of people in this world. And I lived a great portion of my life being afraid of what tomorrow may bring or what it wouldn't bring. It's a feeling that can be controlled, but we all know when you're going through these types of emotions, it is very difficult to think, what can I do right now to not only make sure that I can overcome these emotions and these feelings, but sustain them over a long period of time. And that's the hard part. It's one thing to think of something in your mind to change something. It's another thing to think of something in your mind and want to change something, but not be able to change it because you don't know what to do. And it's the perception of not ever knowing what to do that can get you into a place where you're so fearful and you're so afraid of what the next day may bring that it causes you so much anxiety in the moment that you're essentially frozen solid. You cannot move. You cannot think. There are things that are happening in your life that seem like they will never have an answer. But we know that there is always an answer. And if that's the case, that means tomorrow has the answer, if not today. And in a lot of cases, yesterday, even though it's a memory, has the answers as well. We won't find those answers if we don't start the quest to unlock the clues and the mysteries of who we are first, but also what we're capable of being in the future. And that's the ultimate prize, is trying to crack the code of who you are and try to figure out what will bring me ultimate fulfillment and purpose in life. And until you do that, you will be lost. But there is always a next day to crack that code. Whatever you believe tomorrow brings for you is not set in stone. It's not clear. You don't know if you'll die, man. Ladies, don't ruminate on the unknown. When you rue, be prepared for a new beginning. You are what you create. What you see before your eyes is your vision. Precision. Is it destiny or focus? Or is it an illusion of your foreshadowed emotions, coded in more than you were told when mom and pop made the decision to toy with their own lives despite the real prize, your curious soul being the focus of their furious goals, molded into what they saw in you. So, now here we go. Your actions now determine what tomorrow's story will hold. The plot's untold. It'll unfold, a mystery. You'll find glory when you break the mold. Evaluate every piece. Cease and desist. Breathe and release. Relief sets in when retaliation isn't the answer that sets your mind at peace. Unshackle the leash. Take action, not tease. Create a relaxing peace out of negativity. Live a life that's true to you. Don't live to please. Detach. We live to increase, to ascend. Raise the bar, keep running. Stop, but do it again. There is no end. Infinite sins to rise above when innocence begins to warp the senses. Common sense wins when senseless actions turn to tension. Cringe. Binge your life with as much excitement as your greatest show.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
What are we waiting for? Our heads are in the clouds. We're falling. We'll see if we land on land or sea. If your plane of life crashes, land and sea. If your ship's wrecked, return from land to sea. Tomorrow isn't promised, it's brutally honest. Not unapologetically modest. The fondest memories start today. Who's to say tomorrow will bring clear skies when it could bring rain? Or it could bring pain. The skies could bring down upon us what make us insane. Our lives in a loop, roller coaster. The membrane getting flushed out where every time we look out the window pane, it's always something. The question is, what will you do when it's your turn to stand center ring? Are you going to crumble beneath your feet or stand and sing? You will always be your greatest show, even if the future is simply unknown. You have the freedom and power now to rewrite every single story you've been told. Fair or unfair, you're here now. What you do with your life, you should be proud. You're not a clown, you're a dove. Escape the tent and rise above the clouds. Continue to grow through self-love. Enterprise of Emotions, Strength, and Happiness, Episode 1, Perception of the Unknown. Color wave yellow is going to be a lot different than the previous two, red and orange. Only in the sense that this is going to be an exercise in you diving a little bit further, not into only who you are, but your makeup, who you are, all the complexities of who you are, all the nuances of who you are, all the hidden shadows of who you are, all the bright corners of who you are. It's extremely important, as we talk about in every podcast, that we focus on what's important to us and leave out what is unimportant. The unimportant parts of us is okay for us to know that they're there. What I mean by unimportant parts is the parts that should not be so much of a focal point in your life than the parts of you that are extremely important. The parts that will aid you in finding your fulfillment, will aid you in finding your purpose. But those parts have to be explored more deeply than the parts that are more surface level. Parts that are going to change regardless if you like them or not. You know, we can all look in the mirror and say we don't like our nose, we don't like our ears, we don't like our eyes, we don't like our face in general, we don't like our bodies, we don't like our house, we don't like our car, we don't like our jobs, we don't like our friends, we don't like our family, we don't like our children. We can go on and on about all these things. And the fact of the matter is that it really doesn't matter if you love all of those things or you hate all of those things if you have a love-hate relationship with yourself. And fear plays a big part in that. And what are some of the things that we describe as fear when it comes to life in general? You know, procrastination is a form of fear. Anxiety is fear. Depression is fear. There's a lot of things that make up fear. You know, we can talk about loss. We can talk about even gaining things that we feel important to us, but we're afraid of them because we don't want to lose what we obtain. It's like going and buying your dream whatever. It can be a new car, it could be your new house, and then your house burns down, or you get in a car accident. We obtain something and we're afraid that we may lose it. We do the same in relationships. You gain a friendship, you gain someone in your life that is a significant other, you get children. We're afraid to lose these things. So what do? We want to protect them. But we don't always understand why we're protecting, or how long it's actually going to go on with the protection phase. How long do you protect something of value to you? And really, if something's valuable to you, you're never going to stop protecting it. So that means it's ongoing. There is no end for something that you will protect that is valuable to you. If that is the case, what do we do with all of that time we have spent into focusing on protecting things that we value? Well, the things that we protect that we value are precious. Those are things we need in our lives. What we don't need in our lives is that fear side of us that is arrowed, pointing at things that are unknown. And our perception of what the unknown is a trigger for a lot of these things that we associate with anxiety, depression, loneliness, procrastination, being involved in toxic relationships, unable to see warning signs in other people as well as ourselves, unable to see the warning signs when it comes to a job or a school that we might want to attend. We put up these flags, but we don't always even recognize or even understand or even try to really bring true focus and meaning to what those flags are. And a lot of those flags, we don't want to do that because we're afraid. And I went through this a lot in my life. I knew the things I needed to work on, but they were trumped by the things that I knew I needed to work on in the future that weren't even there yet. My mind would be going to next week, to next month, to next year, 10 years down the line. Where if I was to take all that energy and just put it into the moment and focus on what I was doing right then and there, a lot of those outcomes I was afraid of would be null and void because I'm consciously working on what I'm afraid of may happen in the future. So if I'm afraid something's going to happen to me in the future, why would I allow my mind to go to that place without taking action in the moment to say, okay, well, I'm feeling like this may be my future. Is there anything I can do now in the moment that would change that? And that's a good question. And how do you change that? One of the best ways of doing it is to get whatever's in your mind, in your heart, in your body, in your soul, out into the real world. I always say you got to get all that stuff out. Take action on what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your soul's trying to tell you. You have to take that and put it into the real world. And the best way to do that is by writing it down. Getting your thoughts on paper and recording them, either through audio or extensive journaling, whatever it is. You could take a note for the beginning part of it. But the unknown version of you is going to happen whether you like it or not. The perception of the real world in the future is going to happen regardless if you like it or not, regardless if you're still alive or not. The world is going to continue to go on with or without us. The future that you're unknown about, the perception of it, is what's going to hold you back from being who you need to be in the future, a version of yourself that you can create on your own. Because if we take a step back and we only perceive what the future is going to be versus creating what the future is going to be, we already are handcuffing and shackling ourselves to the reality of my life in the future might not be that great, despite what I do right now. So why should I do anything right now if I've already determined that my future is not going to be great? That's where people get into a weird cycle of not having hope. I'm not a big component of hope when it comes to you making decisions in life. Hope is a tool. It is something to guide you. It is something to reassure you, but it is not something to be all in on as far as I only have hope, nothing else. You don't want to only have hope, because hope is almost like a lottery ticket. You hope you win the lottery. You hope you have a good relationship. You hope your kids grow up to be something special. You hope your job works out. You hope you get that raise. You don't always want to hope. You want to create. And creation aids you in figuring out what the unknown may bring. Because it is scary. If you could just think about what you're going to do tomorrow, a lot of people are very afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow. What it may bring, what it may not bring. It can be a very scary, scary thing for a lot of people. Which is why I always preach to people. Just try. And not only try, do. Because I don't like that word try. Do or do not. There is no try. That's what Yoda said in Empire Strikes Back. Which just happens to be one of my greatest films of all time because of those types of lessons. And it is very true. If you do something and you're true to it, and you stick with it and you make it discipline, what difference does it make what the future may bring? You're prepared for anything, so it no longer has to be a focal point. You can get to a place in your life where you say, whatever tomorrow brings, I'm going to be ready. My perception of what's going to happen tomorrow is unimportant because I'm doing the things now that's going to make sure I'm ready for whatever tomorrow brings to me. It doesn't matter if my mind is going to the worst case scenarios. It doesn't matter if my mind is going to a place of I hate to say this word, but hatred for your future self. And we've all done this. Raise your hand if you believe you've ever had a moment in your life where you knew you were going to hate yourself tomorrow. You haven't even gotten there yet, and you've already determined, I'm going to hate myself for whatever reason tomorrow. We've all done that. If you didn't raise your hand, you are full of shit. Everybody's done it. We've all gotten to a point where we cannot stand the very thought of ourselves 24 hours from where we are now. And we haven't even understood the single concept of how do we know what's going to happen. The concept of us always putting together stories and plot lines and things before things actually materialize into reality is a huge detriment. And I did it there's no probably. More than anybody that I knew in my life, I did that. I was always looking at tomorrow. I never was in the moment. And all it served me to do was to be afraid and frightful of who I was going to be the next day. So I spent my whole day trying not to be what I was afraid of. I spent my whole day, each time I would do that, which was a lot, especially when I was going through my depression after my father died. And it's weird because when I was a teenager, my dad died when I was 14. And I spent those years from 14 to around 21. I kind of numbed myself to it. It wasn't until I was around 22 when I take that back. It was up until around age 19. So from 14 to 19, I had kind of numbed it. Around 19 to 22 to 23, I went into this huge, deep, dark depression. And it was extremely dark. every single day, I thought the next day was going to be worse. And I would prepare myself for the worst case scenarios. It had a positive effect on me for doing that, and a negative effect. The positive effect was I was always prepared for whatever happened the next day, because I thought and stressed out about it so much that whenever something happened, it was never bigger than what I came up with in my mind. The bad part about it is that in a lot of ways, I probably was manifesting a lot of those things because I wasn't even getting out of my own way. When you've already predetermined in your mind that tomorrow is going to suck for you, and your perception in your mind is you're probably going to have failure, you're probably going to have tension, you're probably going to have toxic people in your life try to control and manipulate you, you're probably going to get broken up with, you're probably going to get in a car accident, you're probably going to lose your job, you're probably going to get an F on your final. When you start thinking like that, that's a lot to take on. That's a wheelbarrow of failure, disappointment, and tension, and anxiety, and depression, and pain, all wheelbarrowed up to your front porch and dumped down there, and you realize what was in there was a bunch of shit, and it dumped it all over your front porch. And not only was it dumped in your front porch, you got to go out and clean up your own shit. It's like you paid a company to bring you over manure and dump it on your front porch, and you have to clean up your own shit. They dumped it and left. And that's what life does. Sometimes life would dump stuff on you, and it just keeps moving on. A person may dump something on you, and they keep moving on. It's not their issue, their problem for you to figure out how you bounce back from being dumped on. You got to get back up, and you have to figure it out. And what I did when I was going through my deep depression is I realized that I knew I was depressed, but looking back on it, I didn't have a freaking clue just how deep that depression had went for me. It went to a dark place. But I did things back then, not even realizing that helped me. Every single night I journaled. Every single night. I would draw crosses. This is before I found Tao religion. I was still religious. I still went to church every Sunday. I played the trumpet in my church band. I sang in the choir. I did a lot of stuff in church. And the morals, my pastor at the time, he was a little bit ahead of his time. He was progressive in that regard, where he would deliver the sermon, but he also would give you motivation and inspiration. He was like a life coach, a mentor, a father figure, a grandpa, and a freaking pastor all rolled up in one. He was a teacher. You know, he was whatever you needed him to be. You know, they said in the Dark Knight trilogy by Christopher Nolan, Batman initially, he knew in the Dark Knight after the Joker, even though he caught the Joker at the end, the Joker won. He realized Batman is not a person who's supposed to save everyone. He's only meant to be who he's supposed to be. He is whatever the city and whatever, what he says, whatever Gotham needs me to be, that's what I'm going to be. If Gotham needs me to be the villain in order to save people's lives, that's what I'm going to do. And I always associated that with my pastor. He was to you whatever you needed him to be. And I loved him for that. And I remember he helped me get out of my depression because of that. Because I started loving going to church and playing in the band and seeing my friends. And it was a culture of positivity and good morals. And I learned a lot. And going to church actually helped me get out of my depression. Which is why, even though I ended up leaving the church because of my point of view, I was more towards the Tao religion. And you have to ask permission to leave the church. And he gave me his blessings and said, good job on you figuring yourself out. And it was a very scary time for me at the time because the unknown is scary. I didn't know where I was going to go. I'm like, okay, all my friends and family all expect me to go to this church and I'm not there anymore. Now what do I do? And I did what everybody does when you leave church like that. You start fucking up. And I started messing up big time. I lost sight of my morals. Because I didn't find the Tao religion until almost 10 years. Oh my goodness, about 10 years after I left the church. But I highly recommend, if you listen to this, if you have any children, you have any friends or family, coworkers that want to get balanced out, send them to church, whether they believe in God or not. They will find something in there. The positive message alone is worth going to church. the beautiful people that are there are worth going. You find friends that you would never find if you don't go. There is no downside to going to church. None. Whether you believe in God or not, there is no downside in going to church. If you find a good church that you go to and the people accept you in there, because there are churches that will not let you come in if you're, non-denominational or you're not, but whatever. There's non-denominational churches out there, just like my church that I went to ever since I was a kid. My mother still goes there. She works for the church. It teaches you. It helps you prepare yourself for things like the unknown. Because you have people, you have resources, you have people there every single week. You're going to get some type of aid that will help you deal with what tomorrow is going to bring. And life is cruel. Life can be very cruel. Life can teach you all the wrong things about your life at the wrong times. You get to a place in your life where you have everything figured out. Everything's going great, and then something happens. That big boulder drops out of the sky and hits you in the back of the head, and now you're right back where you started, and you feel like, what did I do to deserve this? How do I change things? Why does this always happen to me? You have to face who you are now. It's not about what happens tomorrow. It's not about what happened yesterday. You are here now. Meaning, we have to get over the hump of our own bullshit. We have to get over the hump of our own insecurities, over our own disappointments, our own failures, things that we created for ourselves that we can't blame anyone about, and all the things that happen to us that we could blame people about. We shouldn't do that either. What does it matter? Tomorrow, something can happen to you, yes, that would change your life forever in a positive or a negative way. That's life. It is what it is. You have to accept life for what it is. And life is unpredictable. And if something is truly unpredictable, what is the point of stressing out on things that are unknown to you tomorrow? The best way to battle against that is to make sure you're in the best position to face, confront, and overcome whatever it is going to come to you the next day, because things are going to come to you. Whether you like it or not, things are going to happen to you tomorrow, and there's nothing you can do about it other than deal with it, to face it. Now, the question is, do you want to face it with courage? Do you want to face it with pride? Do you want to face it with strength, willfulness, purposefulness, a true fulfillment of who you are? Or do you want to face it with weakness and with excuses and a lack of discipline, a lack of self-control, a lack of self-awareness, and ultimately a lack of self-love for yourself? The stories you tell yourself would dictate the stories that you write for yourself tomorrow. And we can sit there and read the same books over and over and over again of our past, of our memories, but they're just biographies. The story is not going to change. Again, I would say if you want to change it, those exercises that I do is when you go back and you can find your greatest memory and ask yourself, how could I have messed that up, and go through that exercise, because that's a healthy exercise as well. But I always say, find a bad memory that you've had, a bad situation, something that has triggered you in the past and is triggering you now, and go back and rewrite that story by changing the outcome, your actions, of what you did in the moment back then that you did not do, that you wish you should have done, that you should have done, that you would have done if you were stronger and wiser. You can go back and change them anytime you want. It's a database. You can go back and change your memories of who you are anytime you like, anytime you see fit. Because you can't do anything about tomorrow. At least with your memories, you can take the time to go back and review all the details. Go through with a fine-tooth comb about all the things you did right and all the things you did wrong. Memories hold a capsule for you in that regard. You can bury the capsule, but you can always dig it up and go back through it and say, okay, where did I go wrong, and what are the things that I did right? A lot of times when you go back in your memory, you find out you did more things right than you did wrong. Again, we're talking about perception. Your perception is based off of your emotions, your mental state, how you are flowing through life. What you think is a tragedy today will be a huge gift for you down the line. Think about all the memories that you have. How many of those memories felt like they were bad, when you look back on it, they were actually some of the best moments of your life because they were bad. Because they changed the trajectory of your life in a positive way. That you were granted opportunities to see people, to meet people, to interact with people that you never would have met had a different decision had been made. So if that's the case in memory, why isn't that not the case for you in the future? Your future is going to hold the same types of boundaries and rules as your memories. So we can go back and dig through the memories with a fine-tooth comb and try to change the trajectory, which is fine. It's called changing the mindset. You're trying to change your mindset about some of the things that you're resentful for, things that you're not happy or proud about. But we also have to know that tomorrow may produce some of the same memories that are triggering us now. Listen to that again. Tomorrow will hold the possibility of you having new memories and experiences and situations that are going to turn into memories, that will equal the things that have been triggering you all along in the beginning. So you're adding on. What are we going to do about that? Tomorrow may add another horrible situation to your life that you're going to have to think about for the rest of your life. It's going to play in a loop in your mind. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen a year from now. It could happen 10 years from now. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Like I said, we're human, but as humans, we're also jacked. We're jacked in this world. We have to figure out how to unplug and view life as something that can be controlled on our end. That life is not controlling us. We are here to control ourselves in this world that we live in. Each person views this world in a different way. Each person is in their own quote-unquote simulation, their own little matrix. Everybody sees the world different. And your perception of this world is created by you. What you see, what you do, how you interact throughout it is all about you. You have to understand that your vision of who you want will not be fulfilled if you don't understand the vision of what you want. If you don't understand who you are, your true character, the values you stand upon. It doesn't get much more basic than that in this world. If you want more out of life, you have to create the growth. If you want less in this world, succumb to it. Life's much more simpler than it appears to be. When we can break down things and we get down to the core of who we are, then the core things will branch out into simple core days. Your days will be based on what you are as far as your value. If you have a complicated, screwed up, unorganized value system, most likely your days are going to be screwed up, unorganized, uncoordinated, just a complete mess. You can't expect out of life what you're not doing for yourself. If you want peace from life, you have to find peace for yourself. Otherwise, if you're experiencing chaos in life, you probably are experiencing chaos within yourself. There are no victims in this world. We all are doing the same thing. And if there are millions of people out there who are not making excuses for their lives, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what their lives are, that means you can't use that as an excuse either. What's done is done. What will be, will be. We can't control any of that. What we can control is what are we doing right now. You make a decision every moment to be able to interact with this world however you see fit. There is no perception of the unknown from the past and the future when you're living in the moment. The perception is where you are. What's going on around you? How aware of you are you of yourself in each moment? And if you're not aware of yourself in each moment, why aren't you? We don't ask ourselves enough questions. We don't really dig deep and get down into who we are. The unknown, the most unknown thing we can ever experience in this world is ourselves. What is the unknown for the past and the future if you don't understand yourself in the present? What difference does it make? You feel who you are now. You think with the brain that you have now. Your heart is beating right now. Essentially, you just died a second ago. The heart that beat it for you right now is gone. That heartbeat will never be returned. When you think of life in those small little terms, you realize just how special it is, how intricate it is, and there's no room for complicating it. Not if you want to be truly happy in life. Not if you truly want out of life what you want out of life. No one can tell you what you can and cannot have out of life. Only you can do that. So if that's the case, what do you want? What are you searching for? What do you want to do with your life? Tomorrow is unknown. If you can make it known, if you had a magic wand and you can make the unknown tomorrow known to you, how would you do it? And what would that be? The perception of the unknown for tomorrow is just a construct. It's an illusion. It's a mirage. It does not exist. It is not here yet. It has no existence in your world. It has no existence in your life. It is a void. It is a vacuum. There's nothing there. It has not been written. There's nothing there. Your past. You can look at pictures. You can listen to recordings. You can go on your memory banks. It's gone. You cannot recreate it. You cannot relive it. All we can do is go back and think about it. Make some minor adjustments here and there in our memories to kind of make ourselves feel better about ourselves. But if you use it as a true exercise, you really can't help yourself. Because if you're going to bank towards the unknown, why? When you can bank on the known in the past. You can look back in the past and say, I may not know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I damn for sure know what happened yesterday. And it was good, or it was bad. Could have been better, or it could have been worse. We don't have to guess what happened yesterday. We know exactly what happened yesterday. We don't have to guess what's happening in the moment. We are experiencing it in real time. The only thing we have to guess about is what's going to happen tomorrow. What's going to happen 5 minutes from now. So you have a lot of strength. The strength is in the past and it's in the present. The weakness is in the future because you cannot predict it. So let's get rid of the weakness. Let's get rid of the future. And let's worry about what we're doing right now. The better we are right now, the better our future will be. The more we learn from our past, the better our future will be. No matter what we do, life's going to keep throwing stuff at us. We have every single day an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to understand that we are in control of our own lives. And if we don't cultivate that, we don't grow that, we don't change the things that need to be changed, if we're not aware, self-aware, and we're not banking on our self-respect enough, and we're not focusing on self-love enough, what are you? What are you doing? And how can you complain? It's like people who vote. They always say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. There's some truth to that, and there isn't. And that's the way life is. If you don't change anything in your life that you know you need to change, nobody's going to get mad at you. No one's going to yell at you. No one's going to spank you. No one's going to send you to your room. Nobody's going to fire you. We're just going to ask that you don't complain about your own life. You can't have it both ways. Tomorrow is about a few seconds away. Every second is tomorrow. Your time on this planet is precious. What are you doing with it? Are you focusing on the unknown? Or are you focusing on the here and now? Your mission for today is going to be a very simple one. You don't need to write this down. It's not an exercise that should be anything other than just a contemplation and a introspection of what we just talked about in this moment. And it's just a simple thing. Just ask yourself what type of person that you are. Are you the type of person who fears the unknown of the future? And are you the type of person that holds on tightly to the memories in the past, the good and the bad and the ugly? And if you do that, do you use those past memories as a strength? Like, do you use them as a way to grow strength in the moment to deal with the unknown of tomorrow? So your mission is to just think about who you are. How are you dealing with the unknown of tomorrow? Is it something you even think about? And if so, as we talked about in the podcast, if you could change anything about the unknown of tomorrow, if you can make it known right now, what would you make it be? And after you figure out what you would make it be, think about how you would go about obtaining it. Also think about what has facilitated you to get to this mindset in the first place. Are the things in your past that have happened that are allowing you to get to this mindset? Are there triggers in the past, situations and people and places and things in your past that are facilitating your mindset now that makes either you have the mindset of the future to be a positive or a negative? Ask yourself, are you afraid of what's going to happen tomorrow? Are you excited for what's going to happen tomorrow? So these are questions. This is the mission. Ask yourself questions about how you feel about tomorrow, how you feel about right now in the moment, and how you feel about the past. And on a daily basis, on average, are these things that affect your life in any type of way, positive or negative? And once you figure that out, start figuring out how that's ultimately affecting everything in your life, positively and negatively. This is your day. You are here now. These are your moments. You own them. You are brave, bold, powerful. You do believe in yourself. You know you have more in the tank. You know the glass is half full. There is still more room for improvement. There is no end. Believe, believe, believe in yourself. You do believe in yourself. You do believe you can do whatever it takes to get the job done. You don't procrastinate. You don't embellish. You don't lie. You're true to yourself. Peace is in your mind. Peace is in your heart. Peace is in your body. It is definitely in your soul. You are greatness. You have purpose, intentful purpose. You are here for a reason. You are ambitious. You are loving. You are kind, empathetic, compassionate. You are self-love. You have self-control, self-respect. You are joy, peace, freedom, happiness. You are connected to everything in this world and in this universe. And if no one has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Learn, laugh, and level up.